Ooh! Have we got the
Patreon?
Yes! We've got a
Patreon! Hello interwebs, it's Scott from Admiralty Entertainment. Today we're taking a toy tour of Arkham, meaning the Batman Arkham video game franchise, developed primarily by Rocksteady. Arkham Origins was done by, was it WB Interactive Montreal or WB Games? I'm not entirely certain what that distinction was there. But yeah, fantastic franchise of video games. These figures, equally fantastic I feel, mostly done by DC Direct, though there is one notable exception that we'll get to in a little bit. I have played all the games. I am still, after many, many years, not finished on Arkham Knight, partially because I've got so discouraged from all those Batmobile tank missions, which are boring, and then the races, and but yeah, I really enjoyed the first one, Arkham Asylum. It was a fantastic video game in general, fantastic superhero video game even more so. And of course, as everybody knows, one of the greatest Batman video games of all time. Arkham City built on that very nicely. Arkham Origins, that was fun. I had no problem with that. Not as fun as the other two perhaps, but certainly fine. And as I say, Arkham Knight, I'm still working on just from time to time. That sort of thing happens when you get older anyway. But yeah, it's not quite as gripping as the rest. But we have got this wonderful range of action figures of characters across that franchise, so I thought we'd just take a little bit of a look at this particular collection. Now this isn't the entire collection, this is just what I can squeeze into this one little shelf here, and if you do see a bit of glare, I do apologise. It's an interesting cabinet which you can only actually access from the sides, so the front of it is just a sheet of glass, so hopefully we'll keep the reflections down to a minimum, and you'll be able to take a decent look here. But yeah, let's start going through them. Now I say most of them are by DC Direct, but the one notable exception is the main guy himself, Mr. Bruce Wayne. Oops, spoilers to your secret identity, Bruce. My bad. This one is Batman from Arkham City, and it's actually a Mattel figure. They did a couple of 2-packs, which were under the, I think it was Batman Legacy Collection logo, and that is a Mattel sculpt with a lot more articulation than what the DC Direct figures were doing at the time, and I thought, he actually scales really well with the rest of them, which was really weird because Mattel was in their 6-inch line sort of thing. They'd done the DC Universe Classics, which were definitely 6-inch, and then for whatever reason the Arkham figures that they did do were this more sort of 7-inch thing, which worked out fantastically for me because they fit in nicely with these guys, and I just liked it better. I think it looked a better representation of the Arkham City Batman than actually the DC Direct ones did. The DC Direct ones are fine, of course, but that's just my preferred one, and because I am going for just one version of each character here, which I know some people say something when I get to one of the characters later on, but yeah, we've got just the one Batman, so we don't have the Arkham Asylum one, we don't have the DC Direct Arkham City, nor the Arkham Origins, nor the Arkham Knight, because there's only so much room on the shelf, and it's a pretty stacked shelf, which really speaks to how deep into the franchise DC Direct managed to go in terms of the multiple waves that they did of releasing figures here. So yeah, that's Batman himself. I do really like that figure, and it's certainly a standout of the Mattel figures that they ever did. Shame that they just had the fists and they didn't have any of the gadgets. Of course, DC Direct had the problem of they did like one gadget or 2 gadgets for each different Batman variation that they did, so that you'd end up with needing to get all the Batman to be able to get all the gadgets they used in the game. Particularly on the Arkham Asylum, I think they might have got a bit better with that in the later video game releases. But yeah, it's a very nice figure, and I do like it. I know that there is at this stage, upcoming Todd McFarlane toys, Arkham, Batman, and Joker. It's not my intention to get either one of them because, you know, I've got these guys and I'm happy enough with them, but if they do actually make it to retail shelves here in New Zealand so I can actually take a look at them myself, who knows. But at the moment this is pretty much the collection and pretty much what it will be, and that's my chosen Batman. It might be nice to actually have a display of just all the different Arkham Batmen. You know, that would be really cool. But as I say, in this particular shelf, it's about trying to get as many characters in there as possible, and there's only so much space. So of course, if we're talking about Batman, who in the game is voiced by Kevin Conroy, the iconic voiceover actor from Batman the Animated Series, and pretty much the default Batman that I hear in my head when I'm reading the comics or anything else, we have, of course, his counterpart, the Joker, voiced in the video game, again, as per the animated series, by the incomparable Mark Hamill. You know, one of his two defining roles. Fantastic performance by Mr. Hamill, and it really shows that you can just tweak that performance that he was already doing and make it something truly menacing and disturbing. You know, his performance there is just amazing across those video games, and it shows the sort of range that an actor has. Looking at the figure itself, again, this is a DC Direct one from Arkham Asylum. I imagine, I think he got reissued a couple of times. I know that they did a diseased version for Arkham City, but yeah, a very, very nice sculpt. I mean, you look at the details that they've got on there in terms of, you know, texture and lots of fabric wrinkles and everything else like that. You know, it's very nice, and I do like the design work that they did. I mean, it is as iconic a distillation of the character, you know, as the animated series was, or anything like that. And yeah, really brought that character to the forefront. You know, I mean, like the Joker needs to bring to the forefront him. He's iconic and, you know, the #1 Batman villain anyway. But, you know, really showed what he can do, and of course, you know, showed what Mark can do. Fantastic work there. And moving on, we have more iconic villainy here. The Penguin. I wasn't really all that keen on that particular portrayal of the character. I mean, it's fine. It's fine, but yeah, I didn't like the voice that they chose. It didn't seem to fit what my perception of the Penguin is. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, he's from the Arkham City line, I believe it was. And yeah, again, some fantastic sculpting and paint detail there. I mean, look at that collar. That's beautiful. I really don't know why they went with that bottle as a monocle sort of design motif. It's, you know, interesting. It's different. But yeah, not my favorite version. I do like with this figure that they gave him a cigar stub, and that's an actual removable, you know, little cigar thing there. I did have a problem with his arm falling off at one stage though, because they did use the clear plastic for the joints on him, which was very annoying, but I did manage to get a new one, which of course didn't have that problem. But yes, so Penguin, it's an iconic character, definitely, and someone that's, you know, was good in the video game that they're in, but yeah, not my favourite portrayal of the character. But moving on, we have the Mad Hatter. Let's see if we can get that lighting on there properly. Yeah, this figure is weird. The fact that they charged full price for him when he's teeny tiny, that was a big thing at the time. You know, DC Direct really should have done something in terms of, I know they had, did they have the pack-in with him? Is that where? No, because Scarface came with the Joker, I think. But yeah, I mean, it was a bit scandalous that they would charge full price for a much shorter figure. And of course you can see there that he doesn't have that much in the way of articulation, which was something which the DC Direct figures were still struggling with, and they really didn't get, you know, significantly better on that until much later on. But it was nice to see that, you know, we would actually get some, you know, some decent depth of characters there, and you got to like the patchwork and stitching on the inside of that jacket there. It's a very nice design, and you know, you can see what they were going for there with that design in total, and as I say, DC Direct have done a good job in translating that from the video game into plastic reality. But yeah, the scale and the fact that they were charging a regular action figure price for that was a bit on the nose. Behind him there, we've got Mr. Zsasz, looking very scary. I mean, you know, you're not going to confuse him for just the random guy that he wasn't like Batman Begins. This is a scary, scary dude, and you know, you can see that there's plenty of detail in there. Again, he's an Arkham Asylum figure, and so you do get a lot more flaws in that one. Not so much flaws as in lack of options that you do get with later ones. He's very, very pre-posed, with limited articulation, so that's pretty much what you're going to get out of him. But you know, it looks cool. It's certainly very different, and the use of the orange jumpsuit there, you know, cut off into different bits and pieces and restraints, you definitely get that Arkham Asylum feel to it, which is, you know, a very interesting idea to be able to utilize him that way, especially for someone who, like Victor Zsasz, is he's kind of definitely a B, if not C-list Batman villain. He's scary in terms of the concept of he likes to self-harm and scar himself for everybody that he kills. But yeah, visually, this is probably the most iconic that he's looked, and it's not terribly practical. I don't think I'd really want to see this in, you know, in movies or TV shows or in the comic books even. But for a video game appearance, sure, as long as he's locked up in Arkham Asylum, because dude looks scary. You do have Scarface, the puppet, down there, and it's kind of a little sad that he's almost more articulated than the Mad Hatter is, but you know, he's a very cool little pack-in. I don't think the ventriloquist actually appeared in the game at all. It would have been very nice if he had, or if the later version, the female one had, because, you know, I'm always interested in more characters. But yeah, Scarface was a cool little addition, bit of an Easter egg in Arkham Asylum. So it's nice that we got a figure of him for no clearly apparent reason, but, you know, I'm all for more characters. We do have Copperhead here from Arkham Origins. She was part of a 3-pack, which was very interesting because there was so much unique tooling in these 3 figures, and it seemed really weird that they just dump it all into this one 3-pack rather than selling them as an individual wave. Maybe that was towards the end of what DC Direct was interested in doing with them. This particular one is interesting because it's got this rubber skin over most of the figure, which, yeah, looks weird. Doesn't quite sit as well as a sculpted plastic body would. But yeah, it was a very interesting concept, again, to turn Copperhead into a female and have this sort of, you know, very interesting presentation of it. You know, interesting design. I didn't mind it at all. But yeah, it's a little bit disappointing with the whole rubber skin thing, which I would have liked the figure better if it had just been a regular figure. But moving on behind there, you can see Deathstroke, of course, major villain from Arkham Origins. I hated that QuickTime event battle. That's just, that killed me. But yeah, fantastic figure. I know that some people have used that figure as their default Deathstroke for any number of other types of collections. But yeah, fantastic design, really enjoy that. Next to that you can see Anarchy there. Again, interesting take on what the regular comic book character is. You know, it certainly sort of fits as a reinterpretation of the purpose of the character, going more sort of the hoodie and that sort of thing, rather than the very big and elaborate sort of look that he's got in the comics itself originally. So yeah, kind of cool. I mean, only ever a side mission character in the video games, but you know, again, very nice to see the depth of field that they managed to get in the characters turned into toys. Over in the back there, you can see the Electrocutioner. You know, again, definitely a C-list Batman villain, primarily notable for providing you with the electroshock gauntlets in Arkham Origins, which then basically broke the game by making everything too easy for you. But yeah, he was interesting, and again, you know, I'm all for adding more characters to it, more depth, especially when you've got a rogues gallery as deep as Batman's. We do have Firefly up there on a an actual doll stand, but just it's enough to be able to give it a little bit of height, which we need that room for here so that we can actually see people, because there's a lot of figures packed in here. Again, I'm a fan of the different media interpretations of Firefly. The animated series version of him was fantastic. This version, I really liked it. The visual design is quite fantastic. The fact that they actually managed to do those wings in an action figure, you know, I was impressed that they would put that much plastic into it without bumping it up to the deluxe sort of price point, which they had a couple of times there. But no, it's a fantastic action figure. I really like that design. They've captured it in three-dimensional plastic very, very nicely. You know, the yellow trim on there, that adds a nice little bit of pop to it. So yeah, but he certainly takes up a lot of real space, and I'm glad that I've got him on that stand there, because it allows him to actually take up not quite so much real estate. Speaking of deluxe figures though, you've got Mr. Freeze down there. Now, he was one of the deluxe ones that they did bring out at a much higher price point, which I think was pretty much unwarranted. You know, the figure itself is fantastic, and I'll try zooming in so you can see a bit more of the details. But the fact that they charged so much more for him was, yeah, I mean, I know he's got more paint apps and specialist sculpting and all that sort of thing, but yeah, it just seemed weird charging a higher price for what's not really that much bigger than normal an action figure. So, but you know, it's Mr. Freeze, and he is one of the more iconic Batman rogues, certainly in the Arkham City game. Everybody raves about that particular boss battle with him as one of the most iconic parts of the game, and one of the best, you know, boss battles in video game history. So yeah, I can't fault that. But yeah, it would have been nice if that figure had been cheaper. But there's a lot of great detail there. You certainly can't fault that. And you can see some of the texture work on the legs, all that sort of lighting effects on them there. Of course, the bubble and goggles, which really you got to have if you're going to have a Mr. Freeze figure. But yeah, very nicely done. It's just the problem about the price point at the time. But anyway, that's in the past. Moving on. Then we've got Bane. Now, Bane was released in the Arkham Asylum video game line, looking as he did inside the Asylum. And that kind of sucked, and it was very, very heavily pre-posed. And I actually didn't get that at the time, and then he became very, very hard to get. And I think they re-released him later, possibly with some added articulation. But then they came to Arkham Origins, or is that the? No, that might be Arkham City. No, I think that must be the Arkham City version. I can't remember. I'm terrible. I'm sure somebody will correct me in the comments. But we do have the more interesting looking Bane, rather than just, you know, him in his you know, asylum pants. So I definitely chose that version to have him in. No, I think I'm going to go Killer Croc, where I've got the Origins figure rather than the other one. But yeah, it's a very nice version of it. You know, you do get that extra added detail that you expect in a video game figure, rather than just the comic book one, which I know the animated series kind of went, oh, he's a luchador because he's got wearing a luchador mask and that sort of thing, and really tried to simplify the character design there, whereas these guys, they've kept it, you know, nice and detailed, you know, lots of straps and buckles and that sort of thing, which, you know, kind of fits him for a 90s design character. But yeah, certainly very cool. I do like the shade that they went for in terms of the green venom piping through there. And you know, just some of the extra detail is very, very nice there. Moving forward a bit, we do have Deadshot. Again, as I recall, he's appeared in multiple of the Arkham games. This one, I'm fairly certain, is actually from Arkham Origins. I think, yeah, and I really like that figure. That version is very, very cool. I'm not a huge Deadshot fan in the first place, but you know, that version is very nice. I like that sort of, you know, big, thick parka that he's wearing there. Nice bit of texture, and of course, you know, gun arm. That's always, well, wrist gun sort of thing. That's always cool. Moving forward a little bit, and apologies for the cleavage shot there. We do have one of the lovely females of the game series, Talia Al Ghul. Very nice redesign there. A bit on the sexy side with the bare midriff and the plunging cleavage. But I mean, that's pretty much the case for Talia anyway. It's interesting that they kind of went away from that hair draped over one eye, the Lana Turner sort of hairstyle that she's mostly known for. But maybe that was just too difficult to try to do with the video game physics or whatever. But yeah, the face looks a little bit weird on this figure as opposed to some of the other figures in the line, so that's interesting. But I do like that they did break up the the black catsuit sort of look with this purple and black sort of combo. So yeah, very nice. She's got the sword in there as well as an accessory. A lot of them did come with these little black bases down here, which for a lot of them was pretty much necessary for them to be able to stand up, which is a slight failing on the point of the action figure, but at least we got them so we can stand them. But yeah, it was nice. Of course, we have probably the breakout star of the Arkham games in terms of female characters, Harley Quinn. Now this is the Harley Quinn from Arkham Knight. There's certainly the temptation to put in the Nurse Harley from Arkham Asylum, which really sort of triggered the change in her look from the standard Harlequin outfit to more sort of the outfits that she's known for now in the comics. Sort of the retaining the red and black division, but I think this might even actually been the first time that we saw the dyed pigtails coming out, which is now a very heavy design motif for her all around. But yeah, this was a particularly nice figure. Once we got to the Arkham Knight ones, you got much more articulation. Nice little accessory there with a pistol, and there's also a baseball bat. Interesting positioning there behind Joker. But yeah, a very, very nice figure, and certainly the figures that came out for Arkham Knight were even better than the ones that we'd seen in previous games. And I think they just did a really good job from DC Direct turning those ones into action figures. Of course, behind Harley, we do have Lady Shiva. She's Shiva in the game. Yeah, again, a very nice figure that they've done there. I love some of the detailing that they've got there, sort of capturing that stereotypical Oriental style there on the under jacket sort of thing there, but sort of keeping it serious and business with the the pants and the jacket over the top. Lovely face sculpt. Looks a little bit surprised from this angle though. Next we've got Ra's al Ghul, the spoilers, actual main villain of Arkham City. It's an interesting design that they went for there, very much more armoured. I kind of come from, again, liking the animated version best, where he's just sort of wearing a suit. I mean, that's kind of boring, I know, but really, unless it's the stripped to the waist Son of the Demon style outfits, you can pretty much do whatever you want with them. But it kind of seemed weird, him just, walking around wearing this armour all the time. Very stealthy, Ra's. But yeah, I mean, interesting figure, very cool, nice details. And certainly the details on that armour itself you can't fault. Very, very nicely done, subtle gold, embellishing there. Very nicely done. In front of him, we get to Robin. It's weird the way that they went with Tim Drake as this sort of near adult version involved with Oracle. I mean, that was weird. I mean, yeah, I've always been a Nightwing Oracle shipper myself. But yeah, a very nicely done figure. Sort of highlights the Arkham style when it comes to how the figures are designed. Well, the characters are designed for use in the game, and the figures translate that nicely. This would be a Arkham Knight version of them. I think I actually kind of like the one that we saw in Arkham City just a little bit better. But yeah, I went with this one because I think there's possibly the better figure, but the design, I think, in Arkham City was a little bit superior, although they hardly used him in that game, which I think was a shame. It really would be nice to see a full-on sort of cooperative one with Batman and Robin, whether that was you know, a younger Robin in terms of Dick Grayson or this Tim Drake one. You know, I'm sure they could have figured out a decent AI system to be able to, you know, do something kind of like Elizabeth in Bioshock Infinite, where she'd actually be, you know, useful. I say that, I haven't actually played Bioshock Infinite, but this is what I've seen on videos on the internet. But yeah, it would have been nice to see an Arkham Batman and Robin sort of game, because Robin, you know, so often gets the short shift in you know, any sort of media. You know, it's all like, oh, let's just do Batman. Oh, Robin's too confusing and difficult a character to be able to wedge in there. But I'm a big fan of the Tim Drake version of the character, and as I say, I think this design is pretty nice. I know that they had the Batman and Robin sort of flashback. I think it was supposed to be when it was Dick Grayson as Robin, but they never did those guys as figures, and I really would have liked, certainly that younger Robin, to be able to, you know, complete the cycle of you know, Arkham City and Arkham Knight and you know, the assorted, you know, both Robins and Nightwing figures. That would have been nice. But anyway, maybe McFarlane will get to that. They are a Batman one, so there's a decent chance that he'd look at them more than any other part of the DC universe. Ooh, I'm nasty. Behind him, we have the fake villain of Batman Arkham Origins. This is, of course, Black Mask, who in the game turns out to not be Black Mask, which is a shame, because I liked them focusing on not the Joker for one of the Arkham games, which of course was a bit of a problem for Arkham Knight as well. But certainly for Arkham Origins, you know, we've got Black Mask, he's a legitimate villain, he'd be a point of difference, and what do? They turn it into just the Joker wearing Black Mask's outfit, which is a shame. But this figure is pretty nice, very, very limited in terms of articulation, unfortunately, but it's interesting the way that they actually sculpted in those pinstripes. He probably comes across on camera a little bit better than he does in real life, because those stripes tend to just look muddy and dirty. So it's not the best version of that particular character that is possible, but it's probably one of the better action figures he's actually had. He's only had, you know, 2 or 3. There was the DC Universe Signature Series one, I think, and there was a Secret Files one from DC Direct themselves. Yeah, this is probably the nicer look for them out of the 3 that I can think of anyway. There's probably more, but yeah, just if they'd done something a little bit better with that colouring on the jacket, it could have been really, really nice. And of course, the articulation sucks. You know, he's pretty much a statue. But you know, it's alright, I'm using it mostly as a statue in this display here. But yeah, very nice design, and the sculpting work is fantastic, articulation sucks, and the use of the character in the games, not so fantastic either. But, moving on. We do have Oracle back there. She was one of the last figures they actually produced, and that was in a 2-pack with her as both Oracle and as Batgirl. Yeah, I am very glad that we have another Oracle figure here. I know that for the longest time, the only Oracle that you could get was the one from the Birds of Prey 3-pack, which, you know, that works fantastically for your comic display, but it didn't really fit in with your Arkham display here, and that was very hard to get for a lot of people. So a lot of people were very glad to be able to get this Oracle and be able to put that into their comic displays. I'm just a big fan of Oracle as a character in general. I think that she's a lot more interesting as Oracle than she is as Batgirl. You know, they turned Batgirl into more of a legacy mantle? Yeah, a legacy mantle over the post-crisis books, and I really liked that, and I really liked Oracle's position within the Bat family. So when they went to doing the video games, it made sense that Oracle was there being the woman in the chair, as Ned would put it in Spider-Man Homecoming. And yeah, there was a good and interesting use of her, and made use of the tragic backstory that Alan Moore saddled her with from The Killing Joke, and really, you know, turned her into her own character, and I think really thrived there. So I very much miss Oracle. I know that they've turned you know, Barbara Gordon back into Batgirl, and I'm sure there's great stories to be had there and everything like that, but I really liked her as Oracle. That particular era of Birds of Prey, where it was, you know, her and Black Canary, was fantastic, and you know, it really made her a point of difference, and I think an inspiring story of somebody who's faced tragedy and overcome to be able to, you know, make something of themselves in a way that they'd never considered in the first place. So yeah, I miss Oracle. I'm glad that we do have an action figure of her. It was, you know, kind of unexpected that we'd actually get her in the games, certainly until she became much more prominent in Arkham Knight. But yeah, a very nice figure actually, and I'm glad that they did do her. We do have back here Solomon Grundy. Let's see if we can get his face in there without too much glare. Sort of. He's a very big figure. He's very big and he is very heavy. The sculpting detail is fantastic. Can we get in there with that? Yeah, kind of get a bit of glare. There we go. That's a pretty face right there. He's a happy chap with a face only a mother could love, and even then they'd be pushing it. Yeah, fantastic figure. Certainly working nicely on the scale of the character that they used in the video game itself. You know, I mean, he's a boss battle, obviously, and you know, it works really, really nicely. The detail that they've put in there, you know, the veins and, you know, the chains wrapped around his wrist, very, very impressive. And you, as I say, you really can't fault DC Direct for the sculpting work that they did on this, on any parts of the line, really. Fantastic, fantastic work. You know, don't quite know how you can sort of justify that having been the former, was it Cyrus Gold, I think is his civilian name? How did just a regular guy balloon up into that? I mean, even Bane's that size. And kind of have, you know, large Killer Croc, which is, you know, sort of much, much larger than everybody else. But yeah, poor Solomon, that time in Slaughter Swamp, he must have taken on a load of water, because he's really retaining there, and it's you know, not healthy, I'm sure, but you know, he's dead, so don't know how much unhealthier you can get. But yeah, lovely figure. Really pushes the size available within this particular shelf. But yeah, it's a lovely size differentiation there, and I know that they did do the Titan Joker at a similar sort of scale, which yeah, I had no use for, because I don't like the Titan Joker. You know, anytime you do that, turn your villain into a monster, you lose some of the villain. You know, I actually learned that from listening to the audio commentary on Blade, of all things. You know, I like the Blade movies, but it was like, you wouldn't have thought I'd learn great lessons in terms of villainy from that. But yeah, it was true. Since they turned their main villain, Deacon Frost, into a blood monster, he stopped being fun, so they didn't turn him into the blood monster. And you see that same thing repeated on Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 3, when they have the Mayor, my personal favourite, of the Buffy big bads. And as soon as they turn him into a snake, he's not so much fun. So, interesting. I actually learned something from Stephen Norrington that I didn't learn from Joss Whedon. But that's a major diversion from talking about these Arkham action figures. We do have Dr. Hugo Strange. I presume he came before Stephen Strange? I don't know. But interesting that they've managed to keep that character, you know, legally distinct from Marvel's magical character. I'm fairly certain that Hugo here was an exclusive. I think he might have been a convention exclusive or something like that. I was very lucky to be able to get him, especially given that he was touted as the main villain of Arkham City, and I thought it was a fantastic job. I think Corey Burton did the voice. I could be wrong there. Sorry, Corey, if you're not the voice actor, and apologies again to the actual voice actor. But you know, in all the advertising, fantastic job of, you know, building Hugo Strange up as, you know, a different sort of villain to what we'd seen in the previous game with the Joker, and I really liked that. I thought that was great. And then of course it turns out that he's not the main bad guy. He's just another guy in there. But you know, fantastic job, and very interesting. Again, going to all that, you know, hassle in terms of a unique sculpt there for him. There's just no reuse there on parts, which you look at pretty much any action figure line these days. There's reuse all over the place. But yeah, very, very nicely done. Even that head, you know, fantastic. Even for a character which is just wearing basically a white lab coat, he looks fantastic. Then, of course, we've got the Arkham Knight, Jim Gordon. Again, it's one of those characters that you really feel like they need to have an action figure of him, and it's not terribly surprising that we didn't get him until Arkham Knight, but I am very, very glad that we did get him. It's a shame that there's no Alfred. I mean, he hardly played any part in the video games, actually in person. So, the physical representation, possibly not as easy. But yeah, I'm very glad when you get the supporting characters like a Lois Lane or a Alfred, to be able to help flesh out that universe. Then, of course, we have Dick Grayson here, Nightwing. Now, you will note that this is the Arkham City version rather than the Arkham Knight version. First of all, I am very glad that they stuck with that blue and black look. I think that look for Nightwing is fantastic. Don't talk to me about the disco collar, or the giant ponytail version, or that abomination of the... Well, no, it's not an abomination. It was an interesting design choice to go with the red for the New 52. But yeah, it's black and blue, and this sort of design, I think, really is the iconic Nightwing look, and I think they did a good job capturing him here like that. When they got to the Arkham Knight version, they had the weird cowl sort of thing. Only a half cowl, that sort of almost head sock sort of thing that Gambit is known for. So I definitely like the Arkham City version much better. It is very much that iconic comic look translated into the video game, and they also had a fairly decent amount of articulation on him. So yeah, I really like that figure. So he's remained, even though I do have the Arkham Knight version. Arkham City version is the superior as far as I'm concerned. Speaking of superior, we do have the lovely Selina Kyle, Catwoman. Hopefully she's in focus there. Yeah, I think that's better. And yeah, again, iconic character. Fantastic job that they did translating that design to the video game, and then that video game design to plastic. A lot of lovely detailing there. Great expression on the face. I do wish that they could have made the goggles movable, or had two heads in there you could swap out, so you could have both of her sort of goggles down, Catwoman sort of look, and the goggles up. Oh look, I'm actually Selina Kyle, sort of thing. But alas, 'twas not to be. Am I right in thinking that the Mattel version had the goggles down? I can't remember, but I like this version best, obviously, because this is the one I put on display. But yeah, very important character, particularly in Arkham City, of course. But yeah, a nice figure. I like that one. Next to her, we do have Two-Face, and again, this one is actually the Mattel version that came in the 2-pack with Arkham City Batman. Yeah, I like this version a little bit more than the DC Direct version. Not a huge amount, but just a little bit. And it was a case of, well, I've already bought him, I don't need to buy the DC Direct version, because it's the same costume, and he does the trick, so he fits in there nicely. He's got a little bit more articulation than his DC Direct counterpart. But again, as I say, scale-wise, looks fine. We do have the Riddler back there. I am a fan of the suit sort of variations for the Riddler. Again, that's that animated series style. I like that sort of style more than the the just unitard sort of thing. You even go back to the '66 TV series with Frank Gorshin playing the character, and him and just in the unitard. But when you'd class it up with a little bit of a suit, yay, I like him. So yeah, it's an interesting look that they went for here, sort of a little bit more manic, which a lot of the portrayals of the Riddler seem to go for that more manic sort of look, but still keeping it a little bit classy with the suit. And yeah, again, lots of fantastic sculpted detail there, and even the paint detailing there, the sort of the checker on both the tie and the lapels. But yeah, that's a great face sculpt there. You can definitely see a lot of the Frank Gorshin in there. I know that Jim Carrey is the default Riddler for a lot of people, but yeah, that's Gorshin-esque caution-esque, something along those lines. But yeah, very nicely done figure. Again, not so much in terms of the articulation, but you know, he'll do. And you've got to have somebody to be able to set all your action figures, the little side quests, to be able to get random collectibles with the little Riddler trophies. We do have the Scarecrow back there, and this is of course the Arkham Knight version. You know, he was a breakout star of Arkham Asylum, again very much in the I'm in an asylum sort of look, whereas this is sort of him out doing his own thing, which, you know, I prefer. I mean, the asylum stuff is nice, of course, but it's nice to let him, you know, be his own guy. And we can see the injection gloves there, very scary, fantastic innovation that they made in terms of the design there. Gas canisters strapped to his head, and the ghoulish sort of face. Again, really taking some design cues from the later animated series, the TNBA, New Batman Adventures version, where they really made him a very, very scary character with the presentation. And I think that worked well here in terms of taking, you know, elements of that, like the sort of noose around his neck, and you know, making it as well sort of, you know, classic composite sort of Scarecrow. Very nicely done. Certainly can't fault the work that they did on the voice for Arkham Knight. You know, I know they did change the voice actor, but, you know, fantastic creepy voice that they did there. You know, Australian actor who was in Lord of the Rings, John Noble. John Noble did the voice in Arkham Knight, not the guy that did the voice in the previous ones, which is a bit of a shame for him. But yeah, certainly John Noble did a fantastic performance, regardless of everything else going on in that particular video game that I'm not as much a fan of. But yeah, he did a fantastic job bringing that version of Dr. Jonathan Crane to life. We do have Killer Croc here. Again, that is the Origins version, as I recall. You know, kind of hard to justify. I mean, it's a video game, so you can justify scale all you want, and that's perfectly fine. But it seems weird that he should be so much taller than a regular human being. I mean, he's just supposed to be a guy with a skin condition. But yeah, and they did do an earlier version in more the asylum outfit, you know, the prisoner pants and that sort of thing. Very large, as I recall, and yeah, I just found that this version is slightly more compatible with these guys. I know in the video game he's a monster as much as anything else, but I do like him, you know, a little bit more regular villainy, and certainly putting him in regular pants, you know, makes him a bit more than just the monster character. You know, I like the bits where Killer Croc is actually a mob boss and that sort of thing, rather than just, you know, hey, he's the muscle. So yeah, and they did some nice, you know, not hugely detailed, but acceptable shading there. Again, the sculpt is fantastic. You cannot fault them for the work that they did on the sculpting there. But yeah, the arms and chest, you know, they could have done something a little bit more subtle with the gradations there or something, perhaps. I don't know. They did what they could, I'm sure. We do have over in this corner Man-Bat, as he appeared in Arkham Knight. You gotta give props to them for coming up with a truly horrific design there. You know, it's scary as hell, and when he pops up for that first time, oh, that is, you know, jump scare city. Fantastic work. And the fact that they did actually turn him into an action figure is great. You know, the difficulty in terms of doing those giant wings there, that's not easy. So I give them points for the effort that they did put in there. And again, he's also on a doll stand, just to be able to give him that little bit of extra height and clearance over everybody else. We do have the Red Hood back there. This is, of course, from the section of the games where you play as the Joker, becoming the Joker, and yeah, he's technically kind of breaking my rule of not having the same character in there, multiple different outfits, but yeah, it was just too cool. It is just a one of the few instances of a reuse, as I recall, and just with a sort of new head and cape slapped on him, but you know, he looks cool, and there's precedent for the Red Hood just being a you know, a label, you know, an outfit given to a random villain or a henchman or something like that to make him look like he's, you know, a supervillain sort of deal, to be able to, you know, draw Batman's attention and the police's attention, all that sort of thing. So I justify it saying that this is just somebody else, the next person or a previous person to wear the Red Hood before or after the Joker. Yeah, you know, it fits my headcanon, that's just fine. We do have Hush in there, again used in side missions and everything else like that. Never been a huge fan of the character. You know, I of course read the comic book story as it came out, but it's like, yeah, okay, that's fine. I don't think he's really in the top tier of Batman villains, regardless of everything that's, you know, happened with the character since. But yeah, he's okay, and you know, very nicely done figure there, especially when you get to the wrappings on the head. That's not easy to do, sculpt-wise, but very, very cool that they did do it. Over here, we do have the Arkham Knight from Batman Arkham Knight. Again, in my headcanon, this is not Jason Todd. You know, that was a lame choice. Interesting design, but yeah, I just think they wasted a lot of potential there for what could have been an interesting character, and they were sort of, you know, symptomatic of a lot of the problems they had with that particular game. I am very glad that I do have that action figure though. He does look very, very nice, as I say. Great design for the character. So yeah, a good addition to the Rogues Gallery there. And again, you may be saying, wait a minute, what happened to this whole no two versions of the same character? This is the Red Hood, being the Jason Todd version. I believe he was an EB Games exclusive. Again, not easy to get, but very glad that I did. And, you know, I go through that whole justification of, well, in my headcanon, that Arkham Knight is not Jason Todd, so I can have Jason Todd here as the proper Red Hood, which of course is a different Red Hood from that Red Hood. But yeah, it's a cool action figure. It's too cool to not have on display. And yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the Jason Todd Red Hood anyway. You know, regardless of any interpretation of him, I like him better as a martyred Robin rather than an active anti-hero. But you know, what you gonna do? But yeah, very, very nice figure, very nicely done. Certainly can't complain about any of the details there, and they did get some decent articulation in there. So yeah, very nice figure. Certainly couldn't not put him on display. We do have Professor Pig in behind there, one of the newer characters to the Batman Rogues Gallery, created by Grant Morrison for the Batman and Robin run he did with Frank Quitely, I believe. Yeah, again, not my favourite out of the characters, but you know, showing the depth of that Rogues Gallery, very, very good, very good. And again, another instance of, hey, you've got two versions of the same character. Yeah, but it's Azrael, and you do have, in the comics at least, Jean-Paul Valley and the other guy. So I've chosen to take that as these two figures being the two different Azraels, just because the case of they're both really cool figures, and they're different enough that it's interesting to have them both on the shelves. So yeah, I like them, and you know, I can justify anything. I can fudge it if I want to. But yeah, very nice figures, and of course, just in the back there, a little bit hard to see, but we do have Pamela Isley, Poison Ivy, one of my personal favourite Batman characters. I first saw her in the animated series, unsurprisingly, but you know, I liked comics before then, but I'd never seen her. She never made it into the 60s TV series, which was on repeats when I was a kid. So meeting her in the animated series was a fantastic new addition. And you know, she's plays an important part in the DC universe nowadays. You know, partially due to her relationship with Harley Quinn rather than, you know, her on her own, which is a little bit sad. But you know, I do like Poison Ivy, and this is her from Arkham Asylum. And yeah, that hair, ooh, that's not fantastic here. It's just all sticking out the back there. They were going to be doing a new figure of her for Arkham Knight, but that got shelved, which is a real shame. Would have been nice to be able to sort of upgrade her. But yeah, unfortunately, she's sort of one of the last figures to be able to get in there, in my display at least, so you can't really see her terribly well, and I'm trying not to give you this fantastic view of the woodwork of this display case. But yeah, there she is. Yeah, could have been better, but you know, a fairly early sort of figure, and I'm just glad that we got her in general. So that brings to a close our look at this particular shelf of Batman Arkham figures. There are others in my collection, you know, mostly alternate versions of Batman and Robin and Nightwing. But yeah, these are all the guys that I could fit in here, which I thought, you know, when I was doing the display up, got a nice level of variety in there. So you did have multiple characters, as many characters as you could squeeze in there, in all their different forms. So, thank you very much for watching. If you made it all the way through, well done. You'll get an Xbox achievement or a PlayStation trophy for doing so. I don't know what that will be or how we'll implement it, but you know, just imagine it in your own head. Fantastic. Thank you very much. So yeah, we're out of here for now, so please be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and we'll Arkham you next time on Admiralty Entertainment.